This is a Gym and Tonic production. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gym and Tonic. Unfortunately, it's just me today. The boys could not join me, which is sad, and I'm sure sad for a lot of you because you don't want to just listen to me, but sorry, that's just the way it's going to be today. And hopefully, I can impart some knowledge upon you on this lovely day, on this lovely Monday. So, a lot of you know that I am a running coach and I primarily work with athletes and primarily runners. And one of the main things that I do at the gym is I often run gait analyses on my athletes. And so today I figured we would talk about what that looks like and also what a good quote unquote running form looks like. And, the caveat of this is, of course, that all running forms are going to look a little bit different, right? Everybody's going to look a little different when they run. And there are going to be some quirky things that a lot of people do, and it doesn't mean that their form is bad. And truly, I don't even like to say that anybody's form is bad, right? There are forms that there are running forms and running gaits that are more, I would say, like energy efficient, right? So when we talk about running form and gait and the importance of it, that is mainly where that's coming from. We want our running gait to be as efficient as possible. That is why we talk about it, okay? We also want to stay injury free. That is also why we talk about it. And the amount of time that an athlete, that a runner spends on the ground, making contact with the ground, is really important and very pertinent to it connects directly to injury. Okay, so if you are a runner who has a slower cadence, and cadence is also known as stride rate or turnover, it's another way to talk about cadence, another term for cadence. If you are a runner with a slower than average cadence, you may be setting yourself up for a greater chance for injury. And the reason for that is because your impact with the ground is increasing, okay? So it makes sense when you think about it. The more time you're spending on the ground, the more impact you're making with the ground, the more impact that is going up through your feet and through your body, right? Into your joints, into your knees, into your hips, into your ankles, into your back. So these are things to think about, and this is why we talk about things like cadence and things like running gait. When I get somebody in the gym to look at their gait, I typically book out about a 3-hour session with them, okay? And it can be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. It definitely depends on the person. There are people I get in there who are a little bit of a hot mess, right? Like they have a lot going on in their form that I can hopefully correct for them. And then there are other people who come in and they really look very good and there's not a lot to correct. So it really depends on the person. But this is kind of what that routine and what the structure of this gait analysis will look like. They come in, I kind of walk them through what the 2 to 3 hours is going to look like, and then I put them on the treadmill. Okay. And I typically use a treadmill versus an outdoor space, whether it's a track or whatever, because as you guys know, when you're on a treadmill, you are in one place. You're stuck in one place. Okay. So it makes it a little bit easier for me as the practitioner to watch that person directly in front of me and not have them move out of my line of sight. And it's very easy for me to take video when they are on the treadmill versus outside. So anyway, get them on the treadmill. I have them warm up a little bit. And then after they feel nice and warmed up, they start running and they start running at like a decent clip. Okay. So, one thing to remember when it comes to running gait is that the faster you're going, the better your form's going to look, right? And if you guys think about this and think about the reality of this, you probably understand where I'm coming from if you have ever run before and if you've ever sprinted before. And also if you've ever even watched like a running event, right? If you're watching a sprint event like a 100-meter or 200-meter or even 400-meter, these athletes, especially at the higher level like Olympic level or pro level, these athletes look perfect. They look perfect, okay? And that's because naturally, your body wants to run efficiently, right? Like, of course, it makes sense. Your body naturally knows what it needs to do to run most efficiently. So your body is going to streamline itself the faster you run, okay? So you're going to see things like you're going to see really good posture with maybe a slight forward lean. You're going to see those shoulders pulled back. They're not slumped forward. You're not caving your chest in. You want to be nice and open with that chest so that those lungs can expand. The elbows are nice and close to the body, and your arms are swinging from the shoulders, right? So they're not swinging from the elbows, they're swinging from the shoulders. And we often say something in the running community called hip to nip, right? So that's like a good way to think about what your arms should be doing when you're running. You should be moving from the hip. You should be moving the hand from the hip to the nip, okay? With those elbows back. You don't want the elbows out to the sides because, again, when we talk about energy efficiency and energy usage, the more that you're out to the side and those arms are swinging side by side, the more energy you're utilizing to not go forward, right? Every time you do that, every time you go side to side with those arms, you're expending extra energy that you could be spending to go forward, and instead we're moving side to side, right? That's no bueno. The other thing you're going to see if you're watching one of these running events, one of these sprint events, is you're going to see athletes really driving forward with their knees and kicking up high in behind them with their heels, okay? And you might even actually see them like, it looks like they're kicking their butts. Honestly, the best athletes in the world with the best form, I mean, their stride cycle, aka the space that their legs are taking up as they cycle from the hip, it's going to be really high knees and really high heel recovery, okay? And those two terms are going to be knee drive and heel recovery. And I'm probably going to talk about that a couple more times in this podcast. So keep those terms in mind. Yeah. So when you look at the best athletes in the world, the most streamlined athletes in the world, they are going to have that really impeccable knee drive and really impeccable heel recovery. The other thing you're going to see is you're going to see some really great flexion in the feet. Okay. So when we talk about flexion in the feet, when it relates to running, there is dorsiflexion, which is when the toe is pulled up towards the shin. And then there's going to be plantar flexion. And plantar flexion is going to be when that toe comes down and pushes off the ground. Okay. And again, the best runners in the world with the best form, you're going to see quite a bit of flexion. You're not going to see those feet just hanging out. Those feet and those ankles are doing a lot of work, right? The body is really working in such symmetry and like with such teamwork together. Okay. And the next thing we're going to see is we're going to talk about the foot strike itself, right? So, there's been a lot of talk in the running world for years and years about midfoot striking versus forefoot striking versus heel striking. Okay. And, heel striking has really been, it's been villainized, for lack of a better word, for a long time. And there are some good reasons for that. Okay. So when we think about the parts of the foot and the parts of the foot that we want to be impacting the ground, If we talk about the heel, I mean, think about it. Let's say your foot is coming into contact with the ground and then it's going to be pushing off forward. If you're starting at the heel and you're rolling forward onto the toe, your foot might be spending a little bit more time on the ground than if you were hitting midfoot and pushing directly off, right? And so that's something to consider, right? And yeah, so when we talk about heel striking, there are some concerns that are valid, right? The other concern that's going to be valid is, are we overstriding? Okay. And so again, when we think about the foot and where the foot is landing, we want it in a perfect world to be landing directly under the center of gravity. Okay. Because if it's landing out in front of us, that in most cases is going to be an overstride. Okay. And when you think about it logistically, that makes a lot of sense. If you're throwing your foot out in front of you and you're using it to pull yourself up over your foot and continue on, again, that foot's going to spend a little bit more time on the ground than it probably should, rather than just, having hit right under the center of gravity and then just popping right back up. It's having to pull your body forward rather than a quick pull and push. Okay. And then also when we talk about overstriding, what that means in a lot of cases is that the stride length, like the length of your stride, is going to be probably a little bit longer than, again, in a perfect world, right? So when we talk about cadence, which is what we mentioned earlier, that turnover, that stride rate, we want the cadence to be, legendary coach Jack Daniels had a number for it, and his gold standard number was 180 steps per minute, which meant 90 steps per leg per minute. Okay. And this is based upon him counting stride rate for Olympians over the years. Okay. And this was like their average stride rate. So again, best in the world we're talking about. So when we consider that number, it's a high number. That is somebody who's getting up off the ground very quickly. So again, if somebody is throwing their leg out in front of them and having to drag themselves forward, their cadence is probably going to slow down, okay? Because again, they're spending more time on the ground and they're having to pull their body forward rather than just making quick contact and coming back up into that stride cycle, okay? So, and again, when we're talking about overstriding, it makes sense that if we were overstriding, the heel would make contact first with the ground. Now, in all cases, this is not necessarily the case, right? Like sometimes when I get really tired when I'm running, I start to overstride, especially if I'm doing a workout, because I'm trying to go faster. And instead of increasing my cadence, it's almost another natural inclination to just take a bigger step. And I'm not a heel striker. I'm a 4 foot, midfoot to 4 foot striker. So you can certainly overstride and still hit your midfoot and your forefoot. But it does happen quite a bit that the heel is making contact first. Okay. So again, when we talk about heel striking, a lot of times we're talking about overstriding. That being said, this is never going to be the case across the board. Okay. And that's something to really consider when you are looking at somebody's gait. So I would say if somebody is heel striking, it is not an automatic, oh shit, this is a problem, let's fix this. Okay. So you've really got to take into consideration everything about that person's stride. Is that person still making contact directly under their center of gravity? Yes. Okay, good. That's great. Maybe then in that case, it's okay that they're heel striking, right? Especially if you're counting their cadence and their cadence is 85 steps per minute per leg or more, right? If it's under 80, this is kind of I think every form expert is going to be a little bit different, but for me and all of the gait analyses that I've done over the years, what I have noticed and kind of what I go by is if my athlete has less than 80 steps per minute per leg, that to me is going to be something we work on. Okay. So for me, it's under 80 because again, I'm working with mostly competitive runners, but very few pros. Every once in a while I certainly do get a pro, but for my recreational and competitive runners that are not pro and have, normal everyday jobs that aren't running, it's not going to be the be all end all to be at 90 steps. And also, even some of the best in the world are not at 90 steps. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. So again, based upon the populations that I serve personally, what I have seen is that 80 to 85, I would say the average is probably between 82 and 87 is what I see. So if somebody's in that average, I'm actually pretty happy with it. If somebody is under 80, that is where I'm like, okay, we're going to make this a priority to try to improve. Okay, so going back to what does the gait analysis look like when we are putting it into practice in the gym and I am doing a gait analysis on someone. So again, because our bodies tend to streamline themselves the faster we go, I will bump up somebody's pace to something that might be a little bit uncomfortable for them, but not so uncomfortable where they're sprinting by any means, because they do have to stay at that speed for a little bit, but probably more like a tempo pace. Okay. So I bump them up to that pace. And then what I do is I take video, and I take video from 3 different angles: from the side, from the back, and from the front. Okay. And then after I do that, I ask them to count their cadence. So for 1 minute, I say, count every time your right foot hits the ground, or count every time your left foot hits the ground, and only count one leg, because counting both, it can you can very quickly lose your place. So that's what I have them do next. When they're done with that, I have them hop off the treadmill, and then the 2 of us sit down and we look at the video together. What we do at that point is we both kind of call out and talk about what looks good and what looks like it can be improved, right? And I often will ask the athlete first, like, from your knowledge about running, what do you think looks good and what do you think might need to be improved? And in most cases, they kind of know what needs to be worked on, because they're booking that gait analysis in the first place because they think they need a little bit of help in their form, right? Now, I've certainly gotten athletes before who have come in and been like, "Oh my God, I think my form is horrible," and then I watch them run and I'm like, "It's actually fantastic." Like that definitely happens from time to time, because there are very few people that actually video themselves running. But in most cases, the athlete is going to be aware of what might need to be fixed. Where I come in is, well, I can obviously, because I've been doing this for a long time, I can really point out some things that they may have missed. But beyond that, the things that they may or may not have missed, they don't know how to improve it, right? So they're like, okay, I know that this thing is wrong, but I don't know how to get it better. Okay. And that's where I come in. And so after we've done that and called out the things that look good, the things that need to be improved, they give me 5 to 10 minutes, and I go into the office and I write a script of what we're going to follow for the rest of our time together. And that includes strength training, and it includes drills. Okay. And the strength training is a blend of things in most cases. It's obviously, going to be a lot of strength based, but there's going to be maybe some plyometrics in there. There might be some stability work in there. There's always going to be single leg strength in there because running is a single leg sport. And then from there, we kind of break down, again, based upon what the video has shown, we break down what exercises we are going to focus on. And then when it comes to the drills, The drills are really where we work on the form specifically, right? So, for example, somebody, I'm taking video of somebody and I notice that they don't have much of a forward lean. Maybe they're like super duper upright and almost a little bit stiff, or maybe they're even leaning back a little bit. And in that case, forward lean would be one of the main things that I would focus on. And I would give them drills that would improve that. Another thing could be related to their heel recovery or their knee drive, in which case I would give them drills that would reinforce a high knee and a high heel. Okay, so things like that. And then we focus on those things for the majority of the rest of the time, right? So about half of the time is spent doing strength training, half the time is spent doing drills. And again, this can depend on the person. I actually did a gait analysis at the end of last week, and she looked fantastic for the most part. The main issue was her glute strength and activation. And this, I will say, is an issue with 95% of the people I see. Most runners tend to be quad dominant, or even sometimes in certain cases, the hamstrings are taking over for the glutes, so the hamstrings are working harder than the glutes. But in a lot of cases, the glutes are lazy. And so that's something that we have to work on. And lazy glutes are going to be, in most cases, a combo of strength and a combo of engagement. Okay. And that means that for whatever reason, that athlete is having a lot of trouble actually activating the glute muscles, typically the glute med, and they're not feeling it when they run. They may not even be activating them when they're going uphill, which is a very heavy, it should be heavily glute based. And in most of those cases, if they are not engaging them on their run, they are not engaging them in the gym either. And they don't even know how. So this is where the brain-body connection comes in, which is an extremely important part of what I do on a day-to-day basis, not even just with gait analyses, but with my athletes and with my more general population training clients, is going to be glute activation and engagement. And actually, quick plug, if you guys are curious more about how to properly engage your glutes and how to grow your glutes, listen to the last episode we dropped, which came out 2 weeks ago. That one is all about, and it's the three of us, and it's a great convo, and it is all about glute activation and strength. So I'm not going to go into it today because, again, we went over it like 2 weeks ago, and that there's way more information there anyway than I would be able to give today. Yeah. So anyway, she had gait analysis end of last week. She really looked very good, besides the fact that I could tell that she had lazy glutes. And one of the ways I can see that in a gait analysis is a person will often have a hip drop, and or their knees will cave in when their feet make contact with the ground. Okay. And then let's say I see that, and then I will often put them through a few exercises at the beginning of the strength portion of the gait analysis, just to confirm that is actually what's going on. And again, in 99% of the cases, it is. We also will look at, we'll do, in the strength portion of the workout, we often talk a lot about foot and ankle strength. It's pretty common to have athletes and clients who have weak feet. And if you guys think about it, it makes a lot of sense. We walk around most of the time in supportive shoes, right? We are sticking our feet into shoes that are often too narrow for our feet, and often have a lot of support and have a high stack height. And when we do that, our feet and our bodies lose proprioception, which is, where is my body in space, and acknowledgement of where the ground is, and can I feel the ground under my feet? So we lose that when we're wearing shoes like that. And we also lose the ability for our metatarsals to spread out the way that they were made to. and grip the ground and build strength in our feet, right? So most of us have weak feet, and a lot of times that can really lend itself to some issues with running gait. So I talk to them about how to build foot strength. We do foot strength exercises. We do ankle exercises a lot of the time. So that's another thing that you will find in my gait analysis, and something that we might be focusing on. So yeah, so we focus on that strength for a little bit, and then, like I said, if this person has some things directly related more to form and not as much to strength, then we will go through the form drills. Okay. And that can take, it can take as much time as it needs. And I will say, so when we talk about running gait and the improvements that can be made in somebody's gait, I do always tell the athlete to consider everything I say with a grain of salt, because not everything is going to be able to be fixed, right? And we also need to consider the age of the athlete, because I do work with a lot of high schoolers, and a high schooler, it might be quite a bit easier to make improvements in a high schooler's form than it will be to make improvements in a 50-year-old, 6-year-old athlete's form, right? This is, especially if they've been running for most of their lives, this is somebody who has been doing the same thing for most of their lives, and that muscle memory is very much ingrained within them. That being said, if something is more strength related, like glutes, like hips, hip flexors, stuff like that, calves and foot strength, right, which would directly influence flexion. When we talk about those things, they can often be improved, but the caveat is that it's not going to happen overnight, right? This is going to be something that the athlete continues to need to focus on and practice on a pretty regular basis in order to get to the point where the strength is building, and therefore their form is improving. And when we talk about drills in a gait analysis, it's similar. Drills are less strength based, of course, but this is where, let's say somebody is having some issues with their knee drive and their heel recovery, and we talk about it for the session. We have them do these drills. This is in posture, maybe. So let's say they have those three things going on. They have they have a lack of knee drive, they have a lack of heel recovery, and they have a very upright posture, like too upright. It looks like they almost look like a little bit robotic, right? Those three things, I can see a difference from the beginning of the gait analysis to the end of the gait analysis. It's really incredible, actually, because when you talk to somebody about these things and their form, and when it's more form based and less strength based, they are so easily able to implement those changes. It is so freaking cool. Same with cadence. A lot of times, let's say somebody's cadence is like a 75. I have so often seen people's cadence go from a 75 to an 82 within one session. Here's the thing, though. Just like with the strength, it needs to be practiced. If that person comes to do the gait analysis, gets, all this input, is able to implement it at the end of the session, but then goes home and runs on their own, for the rest of eternity, and never practices the things that we talked about, never practices the drills ever again, never counts their cadence ever again to make sure that they're, where they're supposed to be, that person is not going to continue to glean those improvements, right? Like it makes perfect sense. Practice makes perfect, right? It's like playing an instrument. But muscle memory is a really powerful thing. And if you keep doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again, and making those improvements and practicing those improvements over and over and over and over and over again, you are going to start to see those improvements in a few weeks' time. Absolutely, without a doubt. And the cadence stuff, that can be corrected very quickly. Now, something I often see with improvement that often goes along with the improvements in the cadence is that people start to run faster. Okay. So a lot of times my athletes will go out for an easy run a couple days after their gait analysis, and they know that one of the main improvements that they need to be making is in their cadence. And they text me afterwards and they're like, well, it was great and my cadence was great, but instead of running a 10-minute mile, I was running a 9-minute mile the whole time, and I got really gassed. Okay. This is super, super normal, and it will figure itself out. Okay. You do have to kind of concentrate on speeding up your turnover without lengthening your stride length and without pushing the pace. Okay. If you can start to do that, what the nice thing is a quicker cadence like that, it often takes less energy, right? Like what we've been talking about this whole time, you're spending less time on the ground. So there's going to be less energy, in that shorter cadence, quicker cadence. And along with that is going to come some faster times. So yeah, you may be able to, after a little bit of time, get the hang of, okay, well, I've increased my cadence, but like I've been able to pull back on my pace a little bit so that I'm not going so balls to the wall. But you may notice that your pace just naturally gets a little bit faster because you're utilizing less energy. Okay. So yeah, these are all good things. To go back to the gait analysis and the structure of that, like I said, we do the strength training, we do the drills. Then I get my athlete back on the treadmill. I have them jog a little bit, and then I bump that speed up to the exact same speed as what we ran at the beginning, right? Because we want to compare things as closely as possible from the beginning to the end. We don't want to, have any other variables we're needing to worry about. And so yeah, same speed, take the video again. And then I set those videos up side by side, and we sit down together and we compare them. And the athlete also counts their cadence again, right? So we see what the cadence was at the beginning versus the end. Again, there are athletes that come in that is not a concern for them, and so their cadence may have not changed at all because again, it wasn't a focus of ours. Yeah. So then we sit down, we look at the video together, and I utilize an app called OnForm, where I can draw angles onto the video, which is really cool. So if somebody especially we've been focusing on their posture, or we've been focusing on their knees and their heels and their feet, I'm able to draw angles from the hip to the knee, to the ankle, from the toe to the ankle to the knee, from be able to draw lines all the way up from the heels to the top of the head to see how's that person's forward lean looking. So that's super cool. And that side by side comparison really allows that person to look at the improvements that they've made in 1 2 to 3 hour session, which is incredible. And most of the time I really do see improvement, and they see improvement, and it's really motivating. And so that's what the gait analysis looks like. And then within a couple of days afterwards, because I've been taking notes this whole time, of course, I sit down and I write up an email for them. And that email is full of all the strength exercises we did, all the form exercises we did, all the drills that we did. It's and then depending on the person, I may give them warm-ups, I may give them cool downs, I may give them additional little things to do, pelvic floor maybe, mobility, things like that, depending on the person. So again, they get a summary basically of that gait analysis and what what they should continue to do going forward, right? Because again, we don't want to just have the gait analysis and never focus on or practice anything ever again going forward. So by me sending them this, they have something to refer to and strength training to do on their own, drills to do on their own in order to keep improving their running form. A lot of my athletes, of course, continue to work with me after the gait analysis, and we do that strength training together in the gym, right? Because again, I the gait analysis to me with any of the athletes that I work with, I always suggest it because then I have an amazing frame of reference to refer to moving forward in order to make that athlete's time, well spent. So that was the ins and outs of what a gait analysis with yours truly looks like. I'm sure a lot of you listening to this are not going to be living in Denver and would not be able to work with me. You should find a gait analysis wherever you live, I recommend it for any of my runners. Find somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. Find somebody who's really experienced. Somebody that's going to take video of you and possibly be able to give you that video if you want it. It's so informational. It's going to help you pick out shoes. That's the other thing. Most times if you go to a really good running store, like out here, we have Runner's Roost, which is a great running store. And if you go to Runner's Roost, especially the one in Lakewood, they're going to put you on the treadmill and they're going to look at your gait, and that's going to help them determine what shoe to put you in. So doing something like this, I have a decent amount of knowledge about running shoes. I'm going to be able to also look at your gait and be like, oh, I would put you in this type of a shoe. I would put you in a high stack height shoe. I would put you in a zero drop shoe. I would put you in a high heel to toe drop shoe, or not, right? I would put you in a stability shoe because you have a little bit of internal rotation, whatever it may be. So a gait analysis like this is super informational for so many different reasons. It's going to help your strength training journey going forward. It's going to help you recognize maybe you've had injuries in the past that you haven't been able to put your finger on. And this gives you a lot of intel and you're like, oh, that's why I ended up with this injury, right? And obviously going forward, it is a great injury prevention tool because I'm going to be able to really focus in on certain things that I see in your running gait and be like, hey, this could cause injury down the road if you don't fix this, right? So I hope that was informational for you guys. And I really hope that our next episode, the boys will be back and it'll be the three of us. Really quickly, if you are a member at our gym or considering becoming a member of our gym, we have a Thanksgiving potluck coming up on November 8th. Also complete with a fitness event. Okay. So our fitness event starts at noon. It is a blend of different things. So we've got a push-ups competition. We've got pull-ups competition, dips. We've got a deadlift ladder, other stuff like that. Check us out on Instagram if you're looking for the whole list of what we've got competitions for. So that's probably going to go between 12 and 3-ish. And then we have our potluck at 5 p.m. Also at the gym, bring a dish to pass. There is a sign up link on Instagram. Please come, even if you're not a gym member, just come hang out with our community. We have an amazing community. So that's the next event we have planned. As we mentioned last week, we are opening a new space, and that is hopefully coming in December. Crossing our fingers. There are things that, keep coming up that are kind of delaying us as they do, but would love to be in there by December, and we will obviously keep you guys updated about that. Hopefully we'll have like a grand opening or something of the sort. So anyway, have an awesome week. Thanks for joining me for the last 45-ish minutes, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Gym and Tonic is produced and edited by Amy Desane and recorded by Amy Desane, Jairo Lopez, and Robbie Hall. Please follow us on Instagram at Chasing Amy, chasing with 2 G's _ Amy with 2 Y's, Jairo Lopez, Jairo.Lopez with 2 Z's, .303, the number 303, and Robbie is 3 Boys and Dad, the number 3. You can also find us on YouTube at Gym Tonic CO to watch our videos. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.